Hi, before we find out what happens next, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It takes a second and really help us grow. Out of the story.
The rehearsal dinner was perfect until my mother asked for the microphone. We were at the Riverside Estate, a restored mansion with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. Exactly the venue I'd dreamed about since Lucas proposed 18 months ago. Both families had flown in from across the country, and the evening had been flowing beautifully. Toasts from Lucas's parents, laughter from our friends, champagne flowing as easily as conversation. Then Valerie stood up during dessert, tapping her wine glass with a fork until the room quieted. "Before we celebrate tomorrow," she said, her voice carrying that practiced sweetness that always preceded something terrible, "I need to address something that's been weighing heavy on my heart." Lucas's hand found mine under the table. I felt his fingers tense, and I knew he sensed what I'd been dreading all week, that my mother would find some way to make this about her. But I wasn't prepared for what came next. My daughter stole $50,000 from me. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire nobody could see yet, but everyone could smell. Conversation died instantly. Champagne glasses paused halfway to lips. I felt every eye in the room turn toward me, then toward my mother, then back to me. "Mom, what are you—" I started, but she talked right over me. "I've been saving for years," Valerie continued, her voice breaking in that way she'd perfected during my childhood whenever she wanted sympathy. "Putting money aside little by little, thinking I'd use it to help Adrienne with her wedding, to give her a good start in life. I kept it in a separate account that only she and I had access to, and last month I discovered it was gone. Every penny. $50,000 just vanished." She pulled a folded piece of paper from her clutch and held it up like evidence in a trial. "This is the bank statement. Zero balance, and the only person who could have taken it was sitting right here at this table." Christine Trent, Lucas's mother, set down her wine glass carefully. Robert Trent, Lucas's father and a corporate attorney, leaned forward with an expression I couldn't quite read. The rest of the guests, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, sat frozen in various stages of shock. "That's not true," I managed to say, but my voice sounded thin even to my own ears. "I never had access to any account of yours. Don't lie to make this worse, Adrienne." Valerie cut me off, and there were actual tears in her eyes now. Real tears or manufactured ones, I couldn't tell anymore. "I gave you access years ago in case of emergencies. I trusted you. And you betrayed that trust." Lucas stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "Val, I think we should discuss this privately." "No." My mother's voice turned sharp. "No, I'm tired of keeping quiet about this. Everyone here deserves to know who they're watching get married tomorrow. They deserve to know she's capable of stealing from her own mother." The room erupted in murmurs. I saw Lucas's Aunt Margaret whisper something to her husband. My cousin Jessica had her phone out, and I realized with horror that this would probably be all over social media within the hour. I opened my mouth to defend myself, to explain that I'd never had access to any account of hers, that this was insane, but before I could speak, Taylor Kingsley stood up from the best man's chair at the end of the table. Taylor and I had been best friends since 3rd grade. We'd gone to different colleges but stayed close, and when Taylor became an estate planning attorney, I'd asked her to be my best woman. She was calm, methodical, the kind of person who thought 3 moves ahead in every situation. Right now, she was looking at my mother with an expression I'd never seen on her face before, something between pity and cold fury. "Valerie," Taylor said quietly, "I really don't think you want to do this." My mother turned toward her with a sneer. "Oh, is Adrienne's little friend going to defend her? That's sweet, but this is between family—" "I'm not here as Adrienne's friend right now," Taylor interrupted. "I'm here as her attorney, and I'm going to give you one chance to take back what you just said before I present evidence that will humiliate you in front of everyone in this room." The room somehow got quieter. Valerie laughed, but it sounded forced. "Evidence of what? That my daughter is a thief?" Taylor looked at me, and I saw the question in her eyes. We'd discussed this possibility, that my mother might try something like this, that Taylor should be prepared. I'd hoped it wouldn't come to this, had convinced myself that my mother wouldn't dare make a scene at my rehearsal dinner. I'd been wrong. I nodded once, and Taylor pulled her tablet from her bag. This is a recording of a conversation between Adrian and Valerie that took place 2 weeks ago, Taylor said, her finger hovering over the play button. Before I play it, I want to remind everyone that we're in a single-party consent state, which means it's perfectly legal for someone to record a conversation they're participating in without the other party's knowledge. Valerie's face had started to pale. Taylor, wait, she began. But Taylor was already pressing play. My own voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. The recording started mid-conversation, my voice tight with frustration. Mom, Taylor contacted you 3 weeks ago about Grandmother Dorothy's bequest. Where's the $50,000? There was a pause, and then my mother's voice, defensive. That money was spent on the estate settlement, Adrian. Funeral costs, attorney fees, all the expenses that come with settling someone's affairs. Grandmother had a life insurance policy that covered all of that, I said on the recording. I saw the documentation. The will specifically left me $50,000 for my wedding or first home purchase. Where is it? Another pause. Longer this time. I remembered standing in my mother's kitchen while we had this conversation, watching her face cycle through expressions like someone shuffling cards looking for the right one. I took it. In the rehearsal dinner, people gasped. Lucas's hand squeezed mine harder. Taylor kept her eyes on my mother, who had gone completely white. You took it? My recorded voice was disbelieving. I deserve it more than you do. My mother's voice on the recording was sharp, bitter. You're young. You're marrying someone with money. You'll be fine. I sacrificed everything for you. 29 years of my life raising you, putting you first, giving up my dreams and ambitions. That money is compensation for what I gave up. It's not your money, Mom. It's mine. Grandmother left it specifically to me. Your grandmother always loved you more than she loved me anyway. She thought I was a disappointment, thought I wasted my life. Well, maybe I did, but I'm not wasting what's left of it. I'm 52 years old, Adrian. I finally have a chance to live for myself, and I'm taking it. By stealing from your dead mother's estate? My voice was shaking now. By taking money that was legally left to me? You'll make more money. You and your perfect fiancé with his perfect job and his perfect family. I won't. This is my last chance to have something for myself, and I'm not apologizing for it. The recording ended. The silence in the room was absolute. Taylor set down her tablet. That recording was made 2 weeks ago when Adrienne asked me, as her attorney, to help investigate why she'd never received her inheritance. I sent a formal request to Valerie as executor of Dorothy Palmer's estate, asking for accounting of how the estate had been distributed. Valerie stalled for weeks, then finally sent falsified documentation claiming the money had been divided equally among all grandchildren. She tapped her tablet screen. That was a lie. There are no other grandchildren. The will is very clear. $50,000 goes directly to Adrienne Palmer for her wedding or first home purchase. Valerie stood up abruptly, her chair scraping back. You recorded me? You had your own mother recorded. Actually, I recorded you, I said, finding my voice finally. In my apartment, during a conversation where I gave you multiple chances to tell the truth. You chose to lie. And then you chose to stand up here tonight and accuse me of stealing in front of everyone I love. You don't understand, my mother started, but Robert Trent's voice cut through the room. With respect, Valerie, I think we've heard enough to understand perfectly. His attorney voice was cool, professional, and absolutely unforgiving. You took money that was legally bequeathed to your daughter, and then accused her of theft to preempt her discovering what you'd done. Is that correct? My mother's mouth opened and closed. She looked around the room like she was searching for an ally, but every face showed some combination of shock, disgust, or pity. I think, Taylor said quietly, that everyone here would benefit from seeing exactly where that $50,000 went, if you're interested. Valerie's eyes widened with something that looked like panic. Taylor, you don't need to, I started, but she shook her head. Actually, I think everyone does need to see this. Your mother stood up and publicly called you a thief. The defense should be equally public. She tapped her tablet again, and the screen behind her, meant for the slideshow of Lucas and me that was supposed to play later, suddenly displayed bank statements. These are the records I obtained through legal subpoena as Adrian's attorney, Taylor explained. They show that on March 15th, 6 days after Dorothy Palmer's death, Valerie Palmer transferred $50,000 from the estate account to her personal checking account. The image on the screen changed to show credit card statements. Over the next 4 months, that money was spent as follows: $28,000 to Advanced Aesthetics for facial plastic surgery, $12,000 on plane tickets and hotels for a 3-week trip to Europe, $10,000 as a down payment on a leased BMW currently registered under the name Greg Shepard. That's Valerie's boyfriend, for those who don't know him. And the remaining $8,000 on various luxury purchases, including designer clothing and jewelry. Taylor looked at my mother. Would you like to contest any of these facts? Because I have receipts, credit card statements, and photographs from your boyfriend's social media showing you in Paris with your new face. Christine Trent's hand had gone to her mouth. Several other guests were shaking their heads. My cousin Jessica had put her phone away, apparently too shocked even to document this. Lucas stood up again, and this time his voice carried none of its usual warmth. I think you need to leave. This is my daughter's wedding, Valerie started. This is our wedding, Lucas corrected, and you just tried to destroy it. Leave. Now. Adrian. My mother turned to me, her eyes pleading. Please, you have to understand. I was desperate. Desperate for plastic surgery? I heard myself say. And I didn't recognize my own voice. It was cold, flat, empty of the emotion churning inside me. Desperate for a European vacation? You stole from your dead mother to fund a midlife crisis, and when you knew I'd find out, you decided to destroy my reputation first. I'm still your mother. You stopped being my mother the moment you chose vanity over honesty. I stood up, Lucas's hand still in mine. Leave. If you don't, Robert will call the police and you can explain all of this to them instead. For a long moment, I thought she might refuse. But then Greg Shepard, who'd been sitting at a table in the back, stood up and touched her arm. She let him lead her toward the exit, and I watched my mother walk out of my rehearsal dinner with her boyfriend's arm around her shoulders and every eye in the room following her. The door closed behind them. Someone started clapping. I couldn't see who. And suddenly the room erupted in applause. Not for my mother leaving, but for me standing up to her, for Taylor having my back, for the truth coming out. Christine Trent stood up and crossed to my table, wrapping me in a hug I desperately needed. Honey, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. I do, Robert said, joining us. You handled that with remarkable grace, Adrian. And Taylor, that was impressive legal work. Taylor inclined her head slightly. Just doing my job. Still, Lucas's father continued, looking at me seriously. This changes things for tomorrow. If you need to postpone, if you need time to process. No. The word came out more forcefully than I intended. I took a breath and tried again. No, we're not postponing. That's exactly what she wanted. To ruin this. To make my wedding about her drama. We're not giving her that power. Lucas pulled me close. You're sure? I looked around the room at the faces watching us. His family, my extended family who'd just witnessed my mother's meltdown, our friends who'd come from across the country to celebrate with us. And I realized something that should have been obvious all along. I'm sure, I said, because tomorrow isn't about her. It never was. It's about us, about the family we're choosing to build together. And I'm not letting her take that from us. The wedding morning broke clear and bright, sunlight streaming through the windows of the bridal suite at the Riverside estate. I woke up to 17 missed calls from my mother and one voicemail that I listened to while Taylor poured me coffee. Adrian, please call me back. My mother's voice was thick with tears. Real or performed, I still couldn't tell. I know I messed up last night, but we need to talk before the wedding. I'm your mother. I should be there. Please don't shut me out like this. I deleted the voicemail and set my phone face down on the counter. "She's not going to stop," Taylor said, reading my expression. "I know, but she's not changing my mind either." I took a sip of coffee, letting the warmth ground me. "How are you so calm about all this? You just dropped a bomb on my mother in front of 50 people. Taylor shrugged. "I've been preparing for it for weeks. The moment you told me your grandmother's money never arrived and asked me to investigate, I knew there was a strong possibility your mother had taken it. And when she started acting weird about the wedding, avoiding your calls, I suspected she might try something like this. You brought evidence to my rehearsal dinner just in case?" "I brought evidence everywhere for the past 2 weeks, just in case. Your mother is predictable. She always goes on the offensive when she's backed into a corner." Taylor refilled her coffee. "Besides, I wasn't about to let her ruin your wedding with lies when I had truth readily available." There was a knock on the door, and Christine Trent entered with a garment bag. "Good morning, sweetheart. I brought your dress from the other room. How are you feeling?" "Surprisingly okay," I said, and realized it was true. "Lighter than I expected." Christine smiled. "That's what happens when you stop carrying other people's dysfunction. Your mother tried to make you responsible for her choices, and you refused. That takes strength. It doesn't feel like strength. It feels like survival. Sometimes those are the same thing." She hung the dress carefully on the back of the door. "Lucas is downstairs with his father, pacing and pretending not to be nervous. Robert is on standby in case your mother shows up and tries to cause problems." "She wouldn't—" I started, then stopped. "Actually, she might. Which is why Robert is prepared." Christine squeezed my shoulder. "But I don't think you need to worry. She's humiliated, exposed, and smart enough to know that showing up today would only make things worse." She was right. My mother didn't show up. The ceremony was everything I'd dreamed. The venue decorated in white and gold, the afternoon light perfect, Lucas waiting at the altar looking at me like I was the only person in the world. Taylor's toast during the reception brought tears to my eyes. I've known Adrienne since we were 8 years old, and I've watched her handle more than any person should have to. But here's what I've learned. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when everyone else walks away. Lucas, you're getting someone remarkable. Take care of her." Lucas's parents toasted to new family and fresh starts. My uncle made a joke about the drama at the rehearsal dinner. "At least we know this marriage will never be boring." That got genuine laughs and broke some of the remaining tension. And when Lucas and I shared our first dance, his arms around me and the reception full of people who'd chosen to be there for us, I felt something settle inside me that I hadn't realized was unsettled. My mother had tried to destroy this, and she'd failed. "You okay?" Lucas whispered as we swayed to the music. "Better than okay," I whispered back. "I'm free." We'd been in our new home for 3 weeks when Taylor called with an update. "Valerie's attorney contacted me about a settlement," she said without preamble. "Apparently, the publicity from the wedding has not been kind to her." I pulled out my laptop, settling onto the couch Lucas and I had just assembled the night before. "What kind of publicity?" Someone posted video from the rehearsal dinner on social media. It's gone somewhat viral in estate planning circles as a cautionary tale about executor misconduct. Your mother's name is attached, naturally. I winced. That wasn't supposed to happen. No, but it did. And now several of Dorothy's friends have come forward saying they suspected Valerie had taken money from the estate, but didn't have proof. There's talk of additional investigations into how she handled other aspects of your grandmother's affairs. Is she in legal trouble? Potentially. Robert Trent forwarded evidence to the State Bar Association since estate fraud is a serious matter. The attorney representing Dorothy's estate could face discipline for not properly monitoring Valerie as executor. And Valerie herself could face civil or criminal charges depending on how aggressively the state wants to pursue it. I was quiet for a moment, processing. What does she want? To settle. She's offering to pay back the full $50,000 plus your legal fees, around $8,000 total, in monthly installments over 24 months. In exchange, you agree not to pursue criminal charges or further civil action. Can she even afford that? Taylor's voice carried a hint of satisfaction. Turns out Greg left her when the legal trouble started. Shocking development, I know. She's had to sell the car, return some of the luxury items for partial refunds, and she's moved into a smaller apartment. But she has a job and can make payments if she budgets properly. What do you think I should do? That's not my decision. I can tell you the legal options, but this is personal. Taylor paused. If it were me, I'd take the settlement. You get your inheritance back, you get compensation for legal fees, and you walk away clean. Pursuing criminal charges would drag this out for months or years, keep you connected to her dysfunction, and probably not result in actual prison time anyway. Lucas appeared in the doorway, mouthing, "Taylor?" When I nodded, he sat down beside me. "What do you want?" Taylor asked. "Because that's really the only question that matters." I thought about it. About my mother's face when the recording played. About her trying to leave the rehearsal dinner with some dignity still intact. About years of emotional manipulation finally coming to an end. "I want my inheritance back," I said slowly. "The money grandmother specifically left me. And I want compensation for the legal fees I had to pay because of her theft. But I don't want to send her to prison. I don't want to be connected to her for years through criminal proceedings." "So you want the settlement?" "I want closure. If the settlement gives me that, then yes. I'll contact her attorney and work out the details. Expect paperwork within the week." After Taylor hung up, Lucas pulled me close. "How are you feeling about all this?" "Honestly, relieved. Part of me thought I should want revenge, should want to see her face consequences beyond just paying back money. But mostly I just want to move on." "That's not weak," Lucas said. "That's healthy. Maybe." I looked around our living room, at the photos we'd started hanging, at the life we were building together. My grandmother left me that money to help start my life. I don't want to spend that life focused on punishing my mother for taking it. I just want to live it. 3 weeks later, the settlement was finalized. Carol would pay $2,400 per month for 24 months. The $50,000 plus legal fees, split into manageable installments. If she missed a payment, the entire amount would become due immediately, and we reserved the right to pursue other legal action. The first payment arrived on schedule with a short note. "I know this doesn't fix anything, but I'm trying. V." I deposited the check and threw away the note. Dorothy Palmer's photograph held a place of honor in our home office, positioned where I could see it whenever I sat down to work. The woman in the frame had my eyes and my stubborn chin, and according to every family story, she'd also had my practical streak and my inability to tolerate nonsense. She'd worked as a bookkeeper for 40 years, raised my mother largely alone after my grandfather died young, and saved every penny she could. She always said she wanted to make sure you were taken care of. My uncle had told me at her funeral. Said you were the only one in the family with sense enough to use money wisely. I wondered now if she'd suspected what my mother would do. If that's why she'd left the money specifically to me in her will, with language that made it clear it couldn't be absorbed into general estate funds. "Thinking about your grandmother?" Lucas asked, appearing with 2 mugs of tea. "Thinking about how she protected me even after she was gone." I took the mug gratefully. She knew my mother well enough to write a will that tried to prevent exactly what happened. But your mother found a way around it. Only temporarily, only until Taylor and I fought back. I looked at the photo again. I think grandmother would be proud of that. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Another payment from my mother, right on schedule. This was month 6. She'd also sent a longer message this time. "I'm in therapy now, working on understanding why I made the choices I made. I know you don't want to hear from me, and I understand that. But I need you to know I'm trying to be better. Not for you. I know I don't deserve a relationship with you. For me. So I can live with what I've done. Mom." I showed it to Lucas. "What do you think?" "I think she's probably telling the truth about therapy. Whether she's actually changing is another question." He read the message again. "Are you going to respond?" "No. Not yet. Maybe not ever." I set my phone down. "Is that cruel?" "It's self-protection. She tried to destroy your reputation in front of everyone you love to cover up her own theft. You don't owe her anything, including forgiveness on her timeline. But what if she really is trying to change? Then she'll change whether or not you're in her life to witness it. Your presence or absence doesn't determine her personal growth. That's on her. He was right, I knew. But part of me, the part that remembered being a child and believing my mother was perfect, still felt guilty for cutting her out so completely. Maybe someday, I said finally, years from now, when I'm ready, when I've had time to heal, maybe then we can have a conversation about what happened and where we go from here. Or maybe we won't. Maybe some relationships are too broken to fix. And you're okay with that? I looked at the photo of my grandmother, at the wise eyes looking back at me from the frame. I'm learning to be. The inheritance my grandmother left wasn't just money. It was proof that I mattered, that someone had thought ahead to make sure I'd be protected and provided for. My mother had tried to take that proof and twist it into something ugly, but she'd failed. The money was being repaid, slowly but steadily. The legal case was closed. Our life was moving forward. And I'd learned something my grandmother probably knew all along, that sometimes love means protecting people from those who should love them most. "Thank you, Grandma," I whispered to the photograph, and somehow I thought she'd understand exactly what I was thanking her for. Not just the money, the proof that I was worth protecting, even from my own mother. The anniversary of our wedding arrived on a crisp autumn day, almost exactly a year after my mother had tried to destroy everything. Lucas surprised me with dinner at the Riverside estate, the same venue where we'd gotten married, where everything had nearly fallen apart and then somehow come together. I wanted to replace the bad memory with a good one, he explained as we sat at a private table overlooking the water. Or at least add to the collection. "The wedding is a good memory," I said, "despite everything that came before it." "I know, but I wanted this place to remind you of triumph, not trauma. We ordered the same meal we'd served at our reception, drank the same champagne, and for a little while, we just existed in the space where we'd promised to build a life together." Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is your mother. I know you blocked my regular number. I'm not asking to see you or talk to you. I just wanted to say congratulations on your anniversary. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be." I showed Lucas the message. "She's up to date on payments. $2,400 on the first of every month, like clockwork. This is the first time she's tried to contact me outside of the payment notifications. What do you want to do?" I thought about it. About the woman who'd stood up at my rehearsal dinner and called me a thief. About the grandmother who'd loved me enough to try to protect me even after death. About the person I'd become in the year since everything exploded. I typed a response. "Thank you. I hope you're doing better." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't an invitation to rebuild. It was just acknowledgement that we'd both survived the wreckage and were trying to move forward. "Think she'll respond?" Lucas asked. "Probably, but I don't need to keep engaging. That message was enough." She did respond 20 minutes later. A simple, "I am. Thank you for asking." And that was it. No apology, no plea to see me, no attempt to justify her actions or minimize what she'd done. Just two people who shared DNA and trauma, acknowledging each other's existence from a safe distance. Taylor called later that evening. "Happy anniversary. How's the celebration?" "Perfect." Lucas brought me back to the scene of the crime. Brave man. "Any maternal drama to report?" I told her about the text exchange. Taylor was quiet for a moment. "You know she's going to try to work her way back into your life eventually, right? Once the payments are done, once enough time has passed, she'll want a relationship again. Maybe. But that's a problem for future me. Present me is just trying to enjoy her anniversary without overthinking family dysfunction." "That's healthier than I expected. Proud of you, Palmer." "It's Trent now," I corrected, though I'd kept Palmer professionally. "Right. Still getting used to that. How's married life?" "Exactly the same as living together was, except now his parents send us more gifts. Still the best decision I ever made." After we hung up, I stood on the balcony of the Riverside estate, looking out at the same view I'd seen on my wedding day. So much had changed in a year. So much had stayed the same. My mother was still my mother, flawed, selfish, capable of tremendous harm when her own needs collided with other people's boundaries. But she was also trying, in her limited way, to be better. That didn't mean I had to let her back in. It didn't mean I had to forgive or forget or pretend the damage hadn't happened. It just meant we were both still here, both still trying to figure out who we were in the aftermath of her choices. And for now, that was enough. The final payment arrived on a Tuesday morning, 2 years almost to the day after my wedding. $2,400, transferred electronically like all the others, with a note attached. Final payment complete. Thank you for not pursuing criminal charges. I know I don't deserve your mercy, but I'm grateful for it anyway. V. I called Taylor from my home office, where Dorothy's photograph still watched over my workspace. It's done, I told her. The last payment just cleared. Congratulations. How does it feel? Anticlimactic. I thought I'd feel something more when it was finally over, but mostly I'm just relieved. It's done, and we can close this chapter completely. Have you talked to her at all since the anniversary text? No. She sent a Christmas card last year, just signed, nothing personal. I sent one back. That's been the extent of our interaction. And you're okay with that? I looked at my grandmother's photo, at the knowing smile she wore in that picture from 20 years ago. I think so. Maybe someday we'll have a real conversation. Maybe even rebuild some kind of relationship. But maybe we won't. And I've made peace with both possibilities. That's growth. I'm proud of you. After we hung up, I sat in my office thinking about inheritance. Not just the monetary kind, but the kind that gets passed down through families in whispers and warnings and wisdom. My grandmother had given me money, yes, but she'd also given me something more valuable. The understanding that I was worth protecting, even from people who should have loved me unconditionally. My mother had given me a different kind of inheritance, the knowledge of exactly what kind of parent I didn't want to be, what boundaries mattered, when to walk away from toxicity even when it wore a familiar face. And I'd given myself the gift of closure without requiring reconciliation, of healing without pretending damage hadn't occurred. Lucas appeared in the doorway with coffee. You okay? Better than okay. The debt's paid. It's really over. What happens now? Now? I looked around our home office, the space we'd built together in the house we'd purchased with my reclaimed inheritance. Now we live. We build our life without anyone else's drama weighing us down. We become the family we want to be instead of the family we came from. Sounds perfect. He was right. It was perfect. Not because everything was easy or pain-free, but because we'd survived the hard parts and chosen to build something better on the other side. I turned back to my grandmother's photograph one last time. Thanks, Grandma, I whispered, for everything. The money had mattered. The house we'd bought with it mattered. But what mattered most was the lesson embedded in that bequest. That I was valuable enough to protect, worthy enough to fight for, strong enough to survive even when the people who should have protected me became the threat. My mother had tried to take that away. She'd failed. And that failure had taught me something my grandmother probably always knew. That the strongest inheritance isn't money at all. It's knowing your own worth.